Professional artists will tell you that having the right materials versus not the right materials is the difference between having a great experience making comics and having a very frustrating experience making comics. That being said, we're not using professional comic book materials because they're a little bit more expensive than what we'd expect you to use on your first comic book project. So we've assembled some materials here that I just want to go over that I'd recommend you use. Now, if some of these materials you don't have access to, that's okay. We can substitute it for what you do have access to. You can make comics with any materials, but some make it a little bit easier. That being said, we've included materials within this course that are materials that we think that you can reasonably have access to and are cheap and also allow you to create comic books very quickly, which is the point of making your first comic book. So I'm going to go through a couple of the materials right now so that you can get used to what they are. Now I have a printer that's a 2-in-1, so it means that it's a scanner and a printer at the same time. You can also get an individual scanner, sometimes used on Amazon for $50 or so, and another printer that can be anywhere between $25 and hundreds of dollars. The other thing that we have over here is an adjustable binding stapler. You may or may not need this depending on whether or not you're going to create a cover for your comic book. I use kneaded gum erasers, which means they kind of look like clay and you can mold them as opposed to the yellow rubber erasers, but either one should be fine. These ones won't rip your paper quite as easily. I use 2H Staedtler pencils. You can also use a regular Ticonderoga number 2 pencil. For a pen, I really think for your first comic, using this zebra pen felt tip is the best because it can create line work that has varying thickness and style to it. But a cheaper alternative is the Sharpie fine point pen. I would also suggest that you use a ruler. In my instructions, I said to use a clear ruler, but I think a cork back ruler is just as good. But the clear ruler will also allow you to see where your lines are and what you're covering up with your ruler as you're going through. And for this whole course, we don't use professional paper. We're just using run-of-the-mill copy paper that you should be able to get fairly cheap almost anywhere. We also have a copy machine that we suggest that you use, but you can use your printer that you have. The copy machine is really just so that you can make multiple copies fairly easily. You can get access to a copy machine at Staples or Office Max if you're making, say, hundreds of copies of the comic, but if you're only making a single copy of the comic, a desktop printer will be fine.